Feedback, the breakfast of champions. Is it radical candor that you're giving people, or is it ruinous empathy? There's a very good book, and I've got some notes that I want to draw on, so you might see me referring to them. But there's some very good book by Kim Scott, Radical Candor, Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity. And a very simple four-box model, which I'll explain in a moment. There's also some concepts about nonviolent communications, after-action reviews, good, difficult, and different, and what worked well and even better if. So this is packed with some really practical tips that you can apply directly. So this concept of giving feedback to people, building strong, trusting relationships, psychologically safe relationships between leaders and their teams, between managers of the team, but by giving direct and honest feedback is really important. So if you can imagine a four-box model, and in the four-box model, the y-axis, the up and down axis, goes from caring personally to at the bottom not giving a shit, and on the x-axis from challenging directly to total silence and not saying a thing. So if you've got the box, what I'd call the top right box, where you care personally and you challenge directly, that is radical candor. You really are very frank and honest with people, but in a way that you do care about how they feel. Remember that saying from Maya Angelou: people forget what you say, they forget what you do, but they never forget how you make them feel. So think carefully about, how do you want someone to feel at the end of this feedback? So caring personally and challenging them directly, that's the best of all worlds, where you get radical candor. If you care personally, but you are silent and you want to be popular and you don't want to upset people, that's ruinous empathy. And it's a common problem. I personally, looking back over the years, suffered a lot from ruinous empathy. I wanted to be popular. I didn't want to upset people. So I actually didn't really say things that I should have said. I kept quiet about it. And they didn't grow, they didn't develop, they didn't get any feedback. When you have in the bottom left box, so that's the top left box, where you care personally, but you remain silent, you don't give them feedback, that's the ruinous empathy. The bottom left box is where you are silent, but you don't give a shit about them, is where we describe it as manipulative insincerity, that you're playing the politics. You're saying nice things to them, or just being sweet and nice to them, but behind their back, you're a complete piece of work. You're a politically maneuvering, gossiping individual who has a meeting after a meeting, or a meeting before the meeting, because in the meeting, you're not actually saying what you should be saying. Manipulative insincerity. Too much of that goes on. I know I've done it, and I bet you've done it if you were really being honest with yourself and being radically candor, having radical candor. And then where you don't give a shit and you challenge someone directly, that's obnoxious aggression. And I know I've had many a person who did that, like my old sergeant major on the parade ground, who would say, "Mr. Bowman-Perks, what's your village doing for an idiot while you're here?" I mean, just, people emigrate to avoid you, sir. And, or people follow you out of curiosity. You're a complete loser. So that's where they personalize it and they make it very nasty. It's obnoxious aggression. So top right box, care personally, challenge directly, radical candor. Top left box, you care personally, but you remain silent, ruinous empathy, a problem for all of us. Bottom left box, you are silent and you don't give a shit, you're manipulative, insincere. And the bottom right box, you challenge directly and you don't give a shit, you're obnoxiously aggressive. So there's a way of giving this kind of feedback, and with the right mindset and preparation and thinking about the objectives you want to achieve and how you want them to feel at it, what's the purpose of it, prepare. And we call it the HIP approach, H-H-I-P. H, be humble. Recognize that you may not have all the facts. you may not be in full awareness of everything that's gone on, and you may have misinterpreted it. So no one ever has the full truth. We're always a little bit wrong. So be humble and be open to reciprocal challenge on your feedback about your own behavior. So that's the first H. The second H in HIP, HHIP, is be helpful. Don't forget the objectives that you wrote down. Don't forget to signal to the person who you're giving the feedback that you intend it to be helpful, and really be authentic in where are you coming from? Is this your agenda or their agenda? Is this going to help them? The I, immediate. Give immediate feedback. Feedback is like a radioactive substance. It has a short half-life and it deteriorates very quickly. We lose the details and the resolve to give any feedback as time goes on. So give the feedback right away in the moment, not impulsively. Pause for a moment, think, reflect, work out what's your objectives, how do you want them to feel? Think about it. So that's the I. HH, humble, helpful, immediate feedback. And give feedback in person, the P, in person. So much of communication that we have, even here on this video for you, is non-verbal, which means much of it is lost in an email or on the telephone. So try your best to do it in person, not over a video, but actually be with them when you're giving it. Don't get someone else to do it and do your dirty work for you. You've got to do it. And the other P is praise in public, criticize in private. It's hard enough for people to hear criticism, but please grant them the courtesy of doing it in private. But praise in public, if that's what they like. You might know that they get hugely embarrassed about public praise. So again, you could praise in private. And another P is don't personalize. Many people make it about the person. You're stupid, you're wrong, or you're an idiot. Your behavior was not good. Your behavior led to this kind of consequences or that. So to talk about the behavior rather than making it something that's permanent, an identity about another person. So that's the way to say it in what we consider to be a helpful way and a way that will land. And you don't want to have the three monkeys of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, because you want people to be able to hear it, see it and feel it and understand it and be able to want to act on it. When you're dealing with conflict and situations of feedback, if it's difficult, is often a conflict one. I got some feedback from a client for Lee and myself the other day, and it was just criticism. There wasn't any positive feedback in it. It made it quite difficult, and much of it was incorrect and unfair. A couple of points were, which we could, accept it, but it made it quite hard to stop and not get defensive, but listen to it and think, what was my part in this? What could I do differently? And what's the learning from it? What was their part in it? Because there's always two sides to everything. But nonviolent communication, Rosenthal wrote a great book on NVC, nonviolent communications. And in simple terms, when you're giving difficult conflict situations and feedback, talk about the facts and stick to the facts. Don't get over emotional. Don't embellish. Just keep it to the facts. In the email, you wrote these words. Feelings, how you feel. No one can doubt how you feel. You can't say how someone else feels, but you can talk about how you feel. And they can't dispute that's how you feel. Facts, feelings, consequences. So what are the consequences for you and the impact on you and your team? So talk about the consequences and make a request, an act that you want them to take as a result of your feedback to them. So nonviolent communications, facts, feelings, consequences, request. And that's part of after action review. When something's gone well or something's gone badly, have an AAR, that's what we used to call it in the military, an after action review, to learn from it. Everything that you do is a learning opportunity. A teachable moment is what it's referred to. Don't see it as a failure or a success, it's a teachable moment. And when you're doing an after action review, you can use two techniques, both work very well, GDD or WWW and EBI. GDD first. GDD. What was good? What was difficult? And what should we do differently? Good, difficult, differently. GDD. That's from Marshall Goldsmith, who trained me as a coach. And then I love the other one, WWWEBI. What worked well and what would make things even better if we did it? So a whole area around feedback, around radical candor versus ruinous empathy, and certainly not manipulative insincerity and obnoxious aggression. This whole idea about whether you care personally enough and whether you challenge directly. To care personally and challenge directly, that is radical candor, and that's what you need. Good luck.